After the second creek crossing on the Hetherington Trail, you'll encounter a wall of ferns. And the higher on the mountain you go, the more different kinds you'll see. Let's look at what's here.
The way I look at ferns is that they are a living connection to our ancient history. They were here before the dinosaurs. They evolved during the age of fish, 360 million years ago, Devonian. They have endured ice age and climate change and cataclysmic events. They have watched a parade of other species evolve and become extinct, and fern are still here. And they're everywhere. They're on every continent except the Antarctic, and almost every habitat except the driest desert and the most cold sub-zero temperature. If you go someplace and you say there's no ferns here, it's because you haven't looked hard enough. If you become a ferniac, that means someone crazy about ferns, you'll learn the different parts of a fern. The leafy part, from the ground to the tip of the leaf, is called the frond. The leafless part, it's referred to as a stipe, and then where the leaves begin, that's the blade. You can differentiate species by looking at the stipe. Some are scaly, some are smooth, and our little goldback here, which is a small woodland fern. It has a shiny, dark stipe, and it has a triangular blade. The gold comes from a powder. It creates kind of a waxy surface to prevent dehydration.
Next, we move to a fern you may have seen in flower shops.
So the maidenhair fern is a woodland fern. It loves moist, shaded slopes. It's got a dark, shiny stipe and these fan-shaped leaflets. Do you see how the edges are curled? The spores are in linear groupings, and they're being protected by the curved leaf.
Next, we find a wood fern.
The one on our mountain is a Diopterus arguta. It's very happy in the dappled shade. It doesn't need as much moisture as, say, the maidenhair fern. When people flip over a blade of a fern, often they'll see what some call spore dots. They're technically known as sori, S-O-R-I, which in Greek means heap, so it's heaps of spores. Even if you had a magnifying glass, you wouldn't see the spores because they're single-celled. So there's a heap of spores. If we did have a lens, we would notice that these spores were more of a horseshoe shape, and what would be causing the shape is a thin layer of tissue called an indusium. Now, most fern do have that little layer of protection, but the maidenhair don't have indusium protecting the sori. They protect it by curling their leaf over. Or the goldback, their spores are just scattered along the veins without the indusium.
One of the reasons ferns are still here is that they can reproduce without pollinators.
So if you have a plant that's evolved with a particular pollinator and something happens to that pollinator, that plant is doomed. Spores do not need a pollinator. The spore, which is light, it's so light, just drifts off into the atmosphere. It lands in some place and it just waits and waits and can wait years. Then if the water hits just right, that spore will germinate into the gametophyte phase. It looks like a plant, but it doesn't have roots or a stem. It has the sex cells that will make the male and female part, and then a little film of water will go over the top of it, and the little sperm will find the egg, and boom, it's fertilized, and then you have your fern.
As we look around the moist slope, Jenn spots a tiny mud tower, the home of an impressive little builder called a turret spider.
Oh, that's a turret.
Steep, shady banks like this one are the perfect place to look for turret spiders. But now we're going to head on up through the woods until the trail reconnects with Donner Canyon Road. At that junction, you'll see two kinds of pines, and we'll talk about the quirky 19th century botanists who gave them their names. We'll also learn about what's beneath those pines, a blanket of shrubs called chaparral.